This is music, and this is another dive into the Danish demo dungeon. Welcome to another dive into the Danish demo dungeon, or the Triple D. I am joined by a cat, so that's why you can hear something that sounds like a cat purring. In this video, we're going to have a look at a quite obscure, I would say, band from my hometown in Odense. That's where Hans Christian Andersen was born. They're always super proud of that. And they never mentioned that he actually hated the place so much he moved away as soon as he could. Anyways, we're going to look at a band called Eagles Preach. They have one demo in the Danish demo dungeon, and I think that's the only demo they ever did. It's interesting because it has some links to Invocator. But let's dive into the dungeon. So here we are, looking at the entrance of the dungeon. Before venturing into the dungeon, I just want to say thanks to Josh Keech from the VC for giving this channel a shout out in one of his recent videos. If you like guitar gear talk and guitar playing talk and cool streams, definitely go and check out his channel. Also, if you are into collecting music on physical media, his channel has got you covered there as well. In particular, kind of like more like modern genres like metalcore and things like that. So definitely go and check out his channel. Again, thanks for giving this channel a shout out. So let's get into it. This is the Danish demo dungeon. And if you don't know what that is, it's an archive, basically, that archives demo tapes and also other formats like demo CD-ROMs, but mostly demo tapes from the 90s, from the Danish underground metal scene, also a bit from the late 80s and a bit from after the 90s as well. But that's what this is all about. And as I said, in this video, we're going to have a look at Eagles Preach. So let's just scroll down to E right here. They're the very first ones. So Eagles Preach. And what we're interested in is rule number 1, which is, I guess, the only one, because it's their only demo. And as you can see, this is really do-it-yourself stuff. This is probably a Xerox, because that was very common back in the day to just Xerox artwork, and then you will make like J cards from that. Looks like that's what's happening here. Now, this is the band. They were short-lived, according to the Metal Archives. They were formed in 89, split up in 90, or maybe it was 91. And they released this one demo here, according to the Metal Archives, in 1990. It has 4 tracks on it. This is the band. This guy here ended up being the the lead guitar player of Invocator for a while. He was on 2 albums, Weave the Apocalypse and Dying to Live. He was known for being a very, very good lead guitarist, playing some very good, tasty, catchy, melodic guitar solos. So that's him, a very, very young version of him, Perle Hansen. The others were not really, I mean, I don't think they ended up, but I could be wrong, that they ended up in like famous bands or anything like that, but Perle did end up having a bit of an impact on the scene, which is of course great. So, as I said, this is the demo tape, rule number 1 by Eagles Preach, and of course you have actually an eagle kind of preaching, right? It even has like a kind of like a vicar's costume on or something like that. So they very literal interpretation of their own name. I guess it should be multiple eagles, because it's eagles preach, right? So there should be more of them, but whatever. I really like these kind of like old school black and white Xeroxed cover artwork things. I think that's why I really kind of appreciate the sort of black and white art style, although it's quite different from this, but the black and white art style that has become kind of popular on the sort of underground death metal scene, right? So that's probably why. Anyways, so it has 4 songs on it. Eagles Preach, Cries of War, Death Penalty, and Face of Madness. And they're all here, so you can actually go and listen to them. Now, production-wise, this is a demo tape. This sounds like a demo tape. It's not unbearable, it's not unlistenable, but it's kind of rough around the edges, I would say. It's, I mean, for a demo tape from 1990, it's not bad, right? But if you sort of grew up with, you know, metal music from the 2000s and on, it might, you know, be a bit challenging to your ears. If you kind of have gotten used to sort of the deliberate lo-fi production of a lot of black metal, you might not have that much of a problem with this sort of sound production and the guitar tone and all that stuff here. Although this is not black metal, this is actually thrash metal. But so it has these 4 songs on it. The production is a bit rough around the edges. My guess is it sounds like they recorded it on a 4-track or maybe an 8-track, and they probably used the compress as much as you can on 1-track strategy that we used a lot when I was in bands back in the, you know, around the same time actually. So you would sort of like record something on the first couple of tracks, and then you would compress that down to another track. You would record more, you would compress that and the other track down onto a track until you had all the instruments that you needed. That did result in a kind of rough sounding production, but that's just what things were like back then. And that's what this sounds like. So the production, a bit rough, demo tape style production for sure. Musically, we're dealing with, as I said, thrash metal, and I think I would say it's borderline technical thrash metal. It's kind of refined. It's not dirty or raw thrash metal. It's more like refined thrash metal. The songs are somewhat complex in the way they're composed. They're also kind of long, apart from the last one. They're like 5, 6, 4-point-something minutes. So that's pretty long actually for an underground band of, you know, younglings like these dudes here. So pretty long songs, pretty complex, but not overly complex. It's not, I would say, progressive or downright technical, but it's almost there. There is a lot of focus on the guitar. The guitar solos are maybe a bit too long for my taste, but I get it. We did the same thing when I was in a band. We wanted to, you know, goddamn, there has to be a guitar solo, and it's gotta be really long. It's very interesting to hear, because the solos on this demo they're kind of frantic, I would say. Not bad at all, but it's a far cry from these solos to the solos that Palle Hansen was known for playing in Invocator. I don't even know if he plays the solos here. He probably does, or maybe the 2 guitarists kind of like take turns at playing solos. But they're kind of rough. They sound somewhat inspired by Kirk Hammett. But you can hear the potential for sure. I mean, they're not bad. You can hear the potential. You can hear this is a guitarist, maybe 2 guitarists that are interested in taking their techniques to another level, instead of just, you know, shredding and I guess doing sort of like blistering, chaotic solos. Although there is a bit of that to them, as I said. But they're maybe a bit long for my taste, but you know, what can you do? I totally get it. The songs, I would say the composition is good, and the riffs are actually also pretty good for the most part. Some of the riffs are a bit more elaborate, others are straightforward, just, you know, fast picking. What's interesting is that Cries of War, the second track, sort of the main riff is almost, I mean, it's an all-out thrash metal track, but the main riff is almost like hard rocky. It has like hard rock leanings for sure, and it actually works pretty well. So overall, all 4 tracks are actually very good. Face of Madness is sort of the odd man out because it sounds a bit more inspired by sort of like German thrash metal, whereas the 3 other tracks, so that's Eagles Preach, Cries of War, and Death Penalty, they sound more inspired by, you know, maybe Bay Area, certainly American thrash metal. There's quite the Testament influence, I think. Also, maybe a bit of Dark Angel. They also do kind of look a bit to Slayer occasionally. It also sounds like you have some Metallica influence going on. So basically, sort of the big bands from the 80s. And nothing wrong with that at all. But it sounds mostly inspired by kind of like American thrash metal. But the last one, Face the Madness, to my ears, and I could be wrong, sounds a bit more inspired by German thrash metal. So overall, musically, pretty good stuff for a demo tape from 1990. The weakness, I would say, is the vocals. And again, I get it. I mean, no, I'm not trashing the band or anything at all. I get it, right? I mean, but it's a vocalist who's sounds like they're not trained. It's more like an attempt at making aggressive, barked out vocals, but the voice just isn't quite there, I think. I think it's really just a matter of the vocalist, I guess, needing to drink a bit more whiskey and smoke some more cigars or something like that. So to get a really gruff, angry Tom Araya kind of thing going, or maybe like the more aggressive, slightly higher pitched sort of German Teutonic thrash vocals going on, or maybe even like a death thrash kind of style. Basically any sort of semi-harsh vocals that you can think of would work. But personally, I think actually had these guys, you know, been signed on a label, had they recorded this maybe in a professional studio with, you know, a more professional sounding production, this could be an EP, right? And the vocals had the vocalist, in my opinion, been more like a Steve Grimmett sort of vocalist, or maybe even Joey Belladonna, or perhaps even like a late 80s style James Hetfield or Chuck Billy, like somebody who could more or less do some clean singing. Maybe even the guy from, I don't remember his name, but the guy from Symphony X has a pretty cool singing voice, right? So I would say some kind of clean singing vocals style with some pipes to them, right? I mean, okay, so James Hetfield, not really that sort of of singer, but his voice on And Justice for All, I think is pretty cool. I like it, right? It's an iconic singing style. But, you know, some vocalist who could either do like some proper semi-harsh vocals, or a trained singer who could sing clean and, you know, hit some high notes, or, you know, do some powerful singing, then this could have been, you know, a real EP on, I don't know, one of the big labels at the time. That would have worked, I think. But yeah, it's a demo tape, rough production, but pretty good for a 1990 demo tape anyways. Some pretty good musicianship, good songwriting, decent solos with lots of potential. It's really interesting, as I said, to hear the difference between these solos and the ones Perle would play in Invocator. I mean, if you like slightly refined thrash metal with a sense of melody, with some... I mean, they do have a lot of up-tempo parts, but with a sense of melody, a bit of focus on the riffs, quite a lot of love for guitar solos. I mean, I would say check out this demo, Rule Number 1 by Eagles Preach. It's right here in the Danish Demo Dungeon, so check it out. And it has an interesting connection to Invocator. So that was Eagles Preach in the Danish Demo Dungeon. Thanks for watching.